To what conclusion did you come to after an onerous week of listening to every second of today?
Well, I mean, I think it was, in a way, an average week. I don't think there's anything particularly special about it, but the conclusion was what I've long thought, which is the Today programme is biased against the Tory government in lots of little ways. And it wasn't a surprise to me, but that was my conclusion.
There's one element of your investigation that struck me, and it may have been that week or it may have happened since then, but there's been a lot of disquiet about the jury's verdicts on the Colston Four and actually a new lot called the Shadwell Three last week, whereby people who obviously committed crimes go into court and emotional juries decide that they're entirely justified to do this, to commit criminal damage because Edward Colston was a slave trader, and the BBC apparently had one guest in to say that was an excellent verdict and no one to challenge it. The rest of the nation was up in arms saying, come on, this is ridiculous. So the BBC just didn't even go there.
Yeah, that was extraordinary. That was certainly one of the items in my week when I listened to it, which was I think pretty. I mean, it was proof that of bias. A jury had decided, for whatever reason, that the four protesters who toppled the statue of Edward Colston into the river in Bristol should go free. Now, nobody's remotely defending Edward Colston. I mean, obviously, that's clear. But there is an argument that you don't go around destroying private property or tossing statues into the river of people you don't like. It's an argument anyway, isn't it? I mean,
they should have put that argument forward.
And what happened was they invited just one person who's actually, I like him, I rather admire him. He's a historian called David Osego. I don't know whether you've ever seen that program. It's called The House Through Time.
Yes, I have. I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Which is
good
very
show,
good.
That good program.
Yeah, it's a very good show, and I like him. Anyway, this guy came on, and of course he utterly approved of the verdict. What wasn't said by the Today programme, or indeed by David Osego, was that he had been a witness for the defence, for the people who had toppled the four protesters who had toppled the statue into the river. I mean, that is incredible. And nobody else was allowed to put the contrary view, which would be my view, which was that, okay, Edward Colston was a bad man, but he lived 300 years ago. You can't go around toppling statues of people you don't like. It's a perfectly reasonable view. Nobody was allowed to say that.
Exactly. And the other aspect of your investigation I wanted you to talk about was, this incredible, almost obsession that the Today programme has to this day of bringing on Professor Neil Ferguson, the epidemiologist who's wont to get his predictions of doom about the COVID crisis wrong. I think he was the one who told us that 6,000 people a day would be dying by now, by the middle of January, from Omicron. So he's always been wrong. He was discredited when he was caught having sexy liaisons with his mistress, breaking his own lockdown rules in the middle of a lockdown, and yet the BBC has him on with monotonous regularity, particularly the Today programme, which seems to have him as almost their resident sage boffin. That's strange as well, isn't it?
It is strange. I mean, he is their go-to expert. I put expert in inverted commas. And he appeared in the week when I was listening to the Today programme. But I mean, not just that week. He'd been on sort of 3 or 4 weeks previously, and then 3 or 4 weeks before that. And I think he's probably appeared more than any expert. I haven't got the exact figures, and the BBC wouldn't provide them to me. But I think he's probably appeared more than any other so-called expert in the last 12 months. And as you say, he's very often wrong. He's apocalyptic. He always looks on the gloomy side, and has been wrong again. Now, I mean, the other interesting thing about the week I listened, and it almost seems like, in a way, like ancient history. We're only talking about a week ago. Is that there were one not just Neil, not just Professor Lockdown, but expert after expert or doctor after doctor, they were all wheeled out to say that the NHS was in terminal crisis, that it couldn't cope with Omicron, and that the government should do something about it, i.e. the government should have tougher regulations, restrictions. This is not long ago. We now can see that actually, for once, Boris got it right. I'm not going to defend Boris in every respect, but Boris was right in resisting these calls. And yet the Today programme was kind of obsessed with it. It was pressurizing the government to do something, to have tougher restrictions. At least that was a sort of tacit. That was the tacit suggestion, the implication of everything.
Yeah.
And we can now see the Omicron, the infection rates are tumbling at a remarkable rate. Yeah, so for once, Boris got it right.
At this time, and he was obviously under pressure from his own backbenchers, 130 rebels, saying, don't cancel Christmas, don't cancel New Year. As you quite rightly say, Stephen, the sense with which the BBC wanted these festivals to be cancelled was almost palpable. And we heard Nick Robinson saying that Boris was basically saying we can ride this COVID wave out without the need for further restrictions on our lives, Boris insisted last night. And then Nick Robinson added, it's quite a gamble. Well, I don't know what form of objective reporting that final statement is, but I would say it's not objective at all. And by the way, Boris was right. We can ride out this without any further restrictions, no matter what the BBC seems to want. It's strange.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think it was a gamble. I think it was a sensible judgment, and it really wasn't for Nick Robinson to editorialize in that way.
Indeed. A final thought. Do you agree with Nadine Dorries? With her intentions, that is, that perhaps the BBC licence fee may be on its last legs. She obviously wants to get rid of it. It's had its day, isn't it? It's anachronistic, I think.
Well, I think in a sort of multimedia world with so many alternatives to the BBC, it's just wrong to make people pay £159 a year if they don't want to watch the BBC, but they want to watch other channels, and there are people in that category. It should be voluntary, and every other media organisation has to fight for its space in the marketplace. I don't see why the BBC should have privileges which actually go back 100 years. I mean, actually, the license fee, the TV license fee, started in 1946. But why the world has changed, the media world has changed, and for the BBC to have this privilege in the new media world seems pretty absurd to me.
Yeah, as I say, it's an anachronism, and I think it has to go. Stephen, I hope they paid you well for your investigation, because you certainly earned your money. It was an excellent article. Thank you very much for your time. Stephen Glover, Daily Mail columnist there, who spent a whole week listening to every second of the Today programme, a punishment that no one quite deserves. When we come back, Charlie Ray, the royal expert on Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, the two problem princes. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan. This is Talk Radio.